and we'll let him draw to the top 8. So
yeah.
This is winning in territory.
Big match for both of them, and for Rudy, the possibility of top 8ing back-to-back opens to start off 2015.
Climbing up that leaderboard quickly.
Absolutely.
David Long going to try to play spoiler here for Briksza. And we'll see if Rudy is familiar with his opponent here. Briksza dabbles in Legacy quite a bit. Has played and had success with many things. For Long, it's been lands ever since we've seen him here in the Open Series. A lot of lands in his deck. 4 copies of Mox Diamond, 4 Explorations, 3 Punishing Fires, 4 Gambles, 4 Life in the Room, 4 Crop Rotation, and 2 copies of Mana Bond. A strategy that picked up in popularity a little bit after Blue-Red Delver really hit the scene. Same thing can be said after Brian Braun-Duin's win at Grand Prix New Jersey with Jeskai Stoneblade. Lance has a great matchup against both of those decks.
The problem with Lance is that its combo matchup is heinous. I mean, game 1, most of the time they have almost no interaction, and post-board have to load up on a bunch of Thorn of Amethyst, Seer Resistance, Chalice of the Void type effects to have an okay matchup. But for creature decks that play to the board, lands is often very, very potent.
And those are cards that Long does have in his sideboard: 4 Seer Resistance, a Thorn of Amethyst, a Chalice of the Void, stuff like that to try to get the job done. Though Lance has changed a touch, previous versions of this deck in the middle 2000s didn't have a quick way to win the game, but Dark Depths and Thespian Sage has given the way to steal things very quickly.
It helps a lot both in the combo matchups and just against the clock, which is #1 enemy for lands over the years. Tough to finish a match in time.
Long taking a look at his hand as he did mulligan down to 6. Doesn't look thrilled at what he sees, but looks like he's going to keep it. Players waiting for the green light. And we will be underway here in just a moment.
So for Rudy and David, the battle is all over Loam, and that's why Deathrite Shaman is the most important card Rudy brings to the table. It can be disruptive against the lands themselves, getting them out of the graveyard, and can also attack life from Loam.
At Verdant Catacombs into a Thoughtseize, you'll see David's hand. Mox Diamond's going to bite the dust.
Oofa.
I've seen better hands, that's for sure. A Horizon Canopy, a Wasteland, a Glacial Chasm, and a Maze of Ith.
Well, talk about being Thoughtseize proof. I mean, the Mox Diamond's not adding a lot to that hand.
I thought it was mulligan to 6, actually mulligan to 5 here, as you can see.
Ah.
And not a pretty hand, though 1 life alone can undo everything here.
For sure, and Mox Diamond would have been nice to have in the event that he drew Loam, so it has some utility there, but not a very powerful hand.
See how David wants to lead out with his lands here. We'll start with Horizon Canopy and simply pass the turn back over to Briksza. Wasteland the draw there for Rudy. He will sacrifice the Verdant Catacombs. And he'll get himself a copy of Underground Sea.
So a variety of double black spells here in Rudy's list. Case 2 copies of Liliana the Veil and 2 copies of Hymn to Torak.
There's a copy of him. Got to go after Long's hand. So David with 4 cards, soon to be 2. See what he loses here. A Maze of Ith and a Wasteland go to the graveyard.
That's really rough for David there. I think that, you know, the Glacial Chasm in his hand is effectively not a card, and he's already so light on resources.
He's tapping mana here.
This is Loam, it's a pretty good sign.
It's a pretty good sign. He gets to play Magic now.
So you're saying there's a chance.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Loam is huge. Force of Will to draw.
I mean, Rudy's hand's not equipped to handle this.
No. And really, his deck isn't either. Especially, I mean, no Deathrite Shaman here. And all of a sudden, he's in a lot of trouble.
That's how fast this deck can flip around. I mean, he mulliganed to 5, got hit with a Hymn and a Thoughtseize, but Life of the Loam is Ancestral Recall every turn if the game's going on for a long time.
Wasteland going to go after Horizon Canopy. Well, when you're dredging and casting Life on return, you don't really mind if your lands die. Now, if you're David, you're looking for a card like Exploration or Mana Bond to power through this 1 land per turn thing. But at this point, he's happy to dredge, cast Loam, target Thespian Stage, Dark Depths, and Horizon Canopy, and all of a sudden, we might have a 20/20 on the battlefield.
For sure. Rudy's also very light on resources, so even if David doesn't find a way to cheat multiple lands in play with the cards you just mentioned, just establishing recurring wastelands might be really hard for Rudy to get out of. He does have some basics in his list, but his deck's so color sensitive, he may not have the luxury of getting all that kind of stuff.
Loam going to resolve. Long with a full hand, passing the turn back. Briksza draws a copy of Dig Through Time. That's the blue card he was looking for to go side by side with Forceful. We didn't have it last turn. Long going to dredge Loam. Turn over 3 cards. Tabernacle of Pendra Veil, a Punishing Fire to go along with his Grow of the Burn rules that's in play, and a copy of Rashad and Port.
And a copy of Dig Through Time here is so bad for Rudy because he may never get to double blue.
Oh, I would be surprised if he does. The text of that card, unlikely to matter, just the color of it to remove it to Force of Will. It's bad news all around here for Briksza.
Essentially, Rudy needs to search for an island and then draw a blue dual land to be able to enable that card. So as you mentioned, probably just going to be used as Force of Will bait.
Here's a copy of Thespian Stage. Left Alone does pick up the Tabernacle and the Port. And now Long considering using a Wasteland, but he will wait. Briksza draws a copy of Ancestral Visions. We'll take the opportunity to suspend this, but I don't think this game's going to go 4 more turns.
I don't think so either. That was, if David had one of the land sheets, Exploration and so forth, he could have gone berserk over the last couple turns. But I think at this point he's trying to just get to Dark Death Stage as fast as possible, and his Wasteland is pretty valuable in terms of just providing mana.
Briksza will suspend down to 3, draw a card, and pack it in, knowing he can't beat the 2020 Avatar token. David Long on a mulligan of 5 easily gets the job done there for Rudy Briksza. Lands up a game here over Shardless Sultai, and Briska's going to need some real help here on the board, and he is very quickly running over to a sideboard and putting some cards in, so he must have something.
That's a pretty heartbreaking game to lose there if you're Rudy. Opponent mulligans to 5. You thought sees him. The hand's nonsense, and then a top deck Loam, and all of a sudden you're the one way behind on card count.
Well, Patrick, what does Rudy have here? I know he's got a little white splash on the board. Maybe Rest in Peace hiding out?
He's got a little bit of action, though not Rest in Peace. A scrub land to enable 2 copies of Containment Priest and 2 copies of Meddling Mage, 2 copies of Nile Spellbomb, 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage, and Numazawa's Jitte, a Pithy Needle, a Disfigure, 2 copies of Golgari Charm, 1 copy of Pernicious Deed. I think the Golgari Charms are okay to bring in here, as lands typically has some number of enchantments. The 1 Pithy Needle can shut down a couple of the utility lands. The Nile Spellbombs and the Meddling Mages really stand out to me as the cards Rudy wants for this matchup. Ways to attack Loam, either by attacking his graveyard with Nile Spellbomb or by locking it out with Meddling Mage.
We'll take a look in long side of things. Again, most of his sideboard hate is for combo decks and problems from permanents like Rest in Peace. So you'll find 4 Sphere Resistance and then 4 Crows Grips. Then a bunch of singletons and Chalice of the Void, Thorn of Amethyst, a Choke, a Seismic Assault, a Bajuka Bog, a Pithy Needle, an additional copy of Dark Depths. I like the Needle against Deathrite Shaman, but outside of that, I don't think he needs much help.
Well, I like the Needle. I like bringing in the 1 copy of Dark Depths because Rudy's deck doesn't really handle a Merit Lage token very well, especially at instant speed. And I think the extra copy of Bajuka Bog can come in just because it's fine to randomly draw, as Rudy's deck is leaning on its graveyard for things like Deathrite Shaman, Tarmogoyf, and so forth. Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, all those effects. It's low cost and potentially high impact.
And you see David taking a moment here to get ready for game number 2. We will do the same and talk about the Complete Commander here by Benny Smith, updated with Commander 2014.
Yeah, very excited to have this offering from Benny Smith, a well-known casual player who's been running on Star City games for many years, and someone who's been at the forefront of the Commander format since it's existed, essentially. And is now updated for 2014 with the Commander 2014 product, available in PDF form at starcitygames.com/CompleteCommander.
Game number 2 going to be underway here between Briksza and Long in just a moment. This is a win-in match here. Whoever wins here will be able to draw the next round and get ready for some elimination rounds. David Long, been playing lands for a long time. Have seen him in the elimination rounds before. Player resides in the DC, Maryland area. Oh, he's playing lands at his local store, told me Jarvis Yu.
And a lot of pressure on this match for Rudy, who was X-1 with 4 rounds to go.
Yeah.
If he loses here, he's got to win next round. And if you were following the players that we're watching, right now XM3 fell all the way down to 15th place at least to Ely Cassis. So Even though Rudy's had a great tournament thus far, given the number of X3s who are likely to have to play next round, he may be in a position where he still has to win it in, may not be able to draw.
Yeah. Tiebreakers will certainly make things interesting. We have a lot of players vying for 8 spots. And none of them hard locks yet.
No. And not a matchup Rudy would like to draw.
This, yes, I would agree with you there. This is a bad matchup for him, though we'll see if he can turn things around here in game number 2.
You're on the play, your opponent mulligans to 5, you have thoughts he's him, and you get crushed. Not an auspicious start to the match.
And crushed is accurate. He got destroyed.
He got crushed.
Now, if you try to be optimistic or maybe objective is the word, he's going to lose game 1 a high percentage of the time.
Yes.
I just don't think he has a good matchup game 1. I think the matchup was pretty poor from overall. So, maybe he was playing with house money there a little bit when his opponent mulliganed to 5, but he still got crushed. It's that bad game 1.
And the matchup isn't even that good, even if he's able to shut off Loam. I think that David can beat him with just the lands that are in his deck. For example, Maze of Ith is all sorts of trouble for Rudy, as he doesn't have anything like Trinity Nemesis. He's got to try to win through combat. The Planeswalker locks can work, but they're very slow to the gates. He's susceptible to Merit Liege tokens. There's a lot going on here that's not good for Rudy, even setting aside Loam Wasteland, which is all sorts of trouble for Rudy.
Well, both players will keep. And Briksza will sacrifice Blue to Delta, search up a basic swamp. And he is aggressively searching out basic lands because he's playing against a Wasteland deck. We've talked quite a bit about Wasteland is on the decline in this particular time in Legacy, but not for David Long.
Yeah, Rudy's taken some real big liberties with his mana base here. One of each basic on a deck that's very color sensitive. 2 copies of Wasteland and a Creeping Tar Pit.
Please make way for the judges. They are bringing your round.
There is Deathrite Shaman.
Your round 4 is going up on the boards in yellow. Please find your seats. Modern players, please find your
Here's a copy of Mox Diamond.
for round number 4.
Glacial Chasm is going to go to the graveyard. And now we have a copy of Exploration, the new school version. And there are 2 lands. And now here's Punishing Fire. Just an average turn.
Jiminy Christmas.
No big deal. Just 5 cards.
I mean, Rashad and Port's a beating for Rudy's deck, too. There's just everything that David brings to the table is so good in this matchup.
And what do we have here? Perhaps it's time to cycle a Tranquil Thicket, and it is. So Long will draw. I think the only piece missing from this puzzle is a copy of Life in the Loam. Looks like David has a copy of Crop Rotation in hand. Here's a Brainstorm. Rudy going to draw 3 and, of course, have to put 2 back.
And some of the liberties with the mana base coming back to harm him a little bit here. No ability to get green mana at this point. A handful of green spells.
Port on the upkeep will take care of the Swamp. And there's a Creeping Tar Pit and a passing of the turn. Long going to untap and draw. Again, really the only piece of the puzzle that's missing here is something like Life Loan, though Port will make things ugly yet again.
Yeah, this is excruciating for Rudy. And he knows from that Wasteland that he's not getting out of this for a little bit.
Black mana taken care of. There's Tarmogoyf and just a quick passing of the turn. Rudy knew that was there.
And I love David's decision to go after the black mana here because the thing he's most worried about from Rudy's side of the table is the Deathbright Shaman.
I'm inclined to agree.
Most people just instinctually go after blue mana because it's the best mana in Legacy, but at this point, David's most concerned with black cards.
A Forest and a target for Maze of Ith.
It's a start. I mean, you gotta start doing something.
Welcome to your rounds. You have 50 minutes.
Tarmogoyf a 3/4 right now.
Now I think there's a reasonable chance you'll see David pivot and cut off the black mana and the green mana to the best of his abilities.
And he'll start with the Forest. See if he wants to follow up with something.
Well, the only thing that makes sense to go after is Creeping Tar Pit. Unless he's planning on crop rotating for Wasteland, I suppose.
There's an Abrupt Decay. It's going to go after the Mott's Diamond. Try to cut the mana a little bit here. Misty Rainforest, the draw. And then the draw step. David will shut down the Creeping Tar Pit. Maze of Ith will take care of Tarmogoyf. And Rudy is going to quickly sacrifice Misty Rainforest. You have to imagine searching for another green source to deploy another Tarmogoyf.
Drawing some lands is good, though. And now he has a second creature in play, so he can attack past the Maze of Ith. So as bad as things started off for Rudy, he's getting a little something going.
Regionals, which is going to be at this location on Saturday. You can pre-register for StarCityGames.com Regionals at the Tales of Adventure vendor booth on the side of the room. Again,
Long will take a draw step.
Saturdays, StarCityGames.com Regionals.
Thespian Stage. It's a one-piece, toothy Dark Depths puzzle.
And we know that David has crop rotation too, so there's a couple lines of play afforded to him. He can either say, I'm going to go after the combo here if Rudy puts his shields down, or he can use Thespian Stage to copy something like Maze of Ith and Rashanport and play a normal-looking game. And then once Rudy puts his shields down, go for the kill.
He's going to play a crop rotation in his main phase. While the mana is down there for Briksza. This is a Dark Depths. This is how he was able to get the job done in game number 1. This Charlotte Sultai deck is very soft to a 2020. Long will pass a turn back. Rudy will draw. It's a copy of Underground Sea.
Rudy has a lot of interaction at sorcery speed, but not a lot at instant speed. You see Jace the Mind Sculptor, he's got Lily on the Veil as well, but that does not work against this combination of cards.
Here's a dig through time. And David says, well, give me a second. I might respond. I think it's getting interesting here because Wasteland kind of gums things up a little bit. But if he makes his token down, Rudy could potentially work his way of dig through time into a Liliana.
Yeah, there's a couple different concerns here for David. Just depends what he's trying to play around, what he thinks Rudy might have access to. We're aware Rudy's drawing pretty slim here. His deck does not have a lot of ways to get out of this scenario.
I think Rudy knows that too. The only one who doesn't is David, but he's come to the conclusion that, sure, feel free to dig through time. I don't think there's much you can do, and he is correct. David Long is going to win this match here over Rudy Briksza. 2-0. A Lands aficionado is our first player into the elimination rounds.
You saw a lone game and a non-lone game. And that really summarizes the problem with the matches. I think Rudy's just shrugging his shoulders right now and talking to someone saying, there's nothing I can really do, you know? Game 1, he just lost straight up to Loam in a game where no one was really doing anything, but he wasn't going to be able to beat Looming Wasteland. And post-board, Rudy does have more answers to Loam itself, but David was able to win the game without his graveyard at all.